This is 8-Minute Insights. byTexture Capital, bringing you concise, expert insight for better markets. And now your host, Richard Johnson.
Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of 8-Minute Market Insights, where I speak to industry leaders and get their take on the most important and newest market structure issues. My name is Richard Johnson. I'm the founder and CEO of Texture Capital. We're a FINRA member broker-dealer specializing in digital securities. So we help clients compliantly raise capital representing equity, debt, revenue share, royalties, and so forth. And we operate an ATS for the secondary trading of private securities. We also license our platform to other alternative investment companies, enabling them to launch their own marketplace powered by Texture Capital. Today's guest is Max Harris. Max is the founder of Ticker Markets, a new marketplace aiming to connect buyers and sellers of private fund interests, such as private equity and venture capital. Texture Capital is proud to be supporting Ticker as their executing broker and ATS in these transactions. So let's get into it without any further ado. Welcome, Max, to 8-Minute Insights.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, Max, what motivated you to start Ticker Markets?
Yeah, so Ticker was really a kind of an internal motivation between me and the other members of our team. We, as kind of younger and newer investors, were interested in different types of investments in different parts of the market. And we kind of slowly backed into these private funds and more specifically venture funds from the realization that there might be a need for kind of a new sort of capitalization structure and liquidation mechanism in this field of private funds.
Right. And what's the kind of, in terms of the PE and VC secondaries, it's a pretty, what's the size of the market? I know it's been growing recently. Do you have any data on that?
Yeah, so the secondary market as a whole kind of peaked in over COVID in 2021. That's secondaries in all of private equity. The LP specific secondaries, though, so LP portfolio transactions, while they peaked in 2021, have actually continued to rise as a percentage of the whole secondary market, up to almost about 50% in 2023, roughly, depending on some of the Q4 numbers you look at. And that size is between 40 and 60 billion annually, mostly in larger LP portfolios, but also through some GP-led portfolio transactions as well.
Right. And just to be clear, Ticker is focused on these fund secondaries, not on unicorns or pre-IPO companies like that. There's a lot of other companies doing that. I don't know a lot of other ones doing what you're doing. What is the process if somebody has a stake in an LP as an LP in a private equity fund? There's another 5 years till the fund ends. What are their options if they want liquidity?
Yeah, so for now, the main option is to really go to the GP, get their approval, and if the GP decides to give approval for such a transaction, the LP, it's really on them to go and find a buyer, to figure out the whole valuation process, the whole transaction process for the most part. And really the GP, for the most part, is only willing to just have their signature on the piece of paper saying that they're okay with the transfer. On the institutional side, those large kind of endowments and large institutional LPs can tend to get a bit more help from the general partners, but definitely on the individual and maybe even retail side, if some funds support that, there's very little support for an LP trying to sell.
Yeah, it's probably a distraction from the GP's day-to-day business, and it doesn't bring them any value really. At the end of the day, they don't get any more money, and they just just get some paperwork to do. So, how does the Ticker platform, try and solve these problems and make it, a better marketplace?
Yeah, so the main two ways that we're approaching it to try to ease the constraints of the general partner not really caring to help too much and the limited partners not being able to find buyers is, well, of course, having, a selected group of buyers, and that can kind of provide a value add, the liquidity making it a value add to the fund and to the LPs and GPs altogether, versus kind of a value subtractive process that's just onerous and not really helpful for any party. And it's kind of just a necessity at some points during some fund life cycles. The other way is a large challenge for the LP in finding buyers is just finding people in general that have capital to allocate to this sort of position, whether that's other LPs looking to buy into a fund or funds that are specifically created to buy out these sort of LP positions. We work to kind of help aggregate such buyers in a way that makes it easier for an LP to find a buyer when they need one.
Right. So when they find a buyer, they're still going to need to go to the GP, though. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, we do work to make it kind of a simpler process by way of when we onboard the fund, making sure the GP understands the process by which a sale kind of occurs. It is still on the GP to okay the listing in the first place, meaning put their signature on the fact that the listing can go public and we can find buyers for that LP position. And so for the most part, once a buyer is found, the GP kind of already has knowledge of the sale.
Yeah, exactly. Great. And so you did a soft launch this week. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're very excited to be working with you on this project. I think is a tremendous need in the market for this. I think some of the stats you mentioned there around the kind of was it $50 billion of transaction volume. I think that is severely my guess is that's severely depressed relative to the amount of demand out there because it's such a complicated market structure, and there's there's the search problem where the seller can't find the buyer. So wishing you every success in solving that. So what's your kind of what's the ideal target fund or LP that you want to work with right now?
Yeah, so right now we're looking at LP positions that are below about $1 million. So generally speaking, those will be high net worth individuals and not really on the institution side for now.
Yeah.
Meaning, and if you kind of project that out, the funds that we're really targeting are below roughly $50 million AUM. That being said, there are funds that are outside the scope, either on the smaller side or even on the larger side, that still fit what our platform really can support at the moment. The other thing is that a lot of the managers we've spoken with are newer and emerging managing teams. That is also a segment of the market that is growing. If you look at trends, there's been about, I believe, if I'm not misquoting, about 170 in midway through Q3 that raised in Q3 alone. And it actually peaked all the way back in 2021 again with over 700. So we're targeting those smaller, newer funds.
Right. And I think that could be even, I mean, the smaller funds, they're competing with the Sequoias or the Blackstones or Apollos or whatever. Being able to offer this, liquidity at a certain point in time, could be a differentiator for them when they're attracting, customers into their fund in the first place, perhaps.
Yes, definitely. And also the interesting thing with on the buyer side is while there are kind of growing just general demand, VC is a growing space as a whole. The LP secondary side, there's a very much growing, and I believe it's been as high as it's ever been, supply of LP secondary specific capital. So capital deployed explicitly to buy out such portfolio positions, while at the same time there's a slightly there's a stagnation in how much LP portfolio sales are coming to market. And so there's growing demand to buy and less demand to sell at the moment. So that's even more capital for these LPs to kind of tap into.
Yeah, excellent. All right. So how do folks get in? Well, first of all, what kind of feedback have you gotten initially, and how do folks get in touch with you, or how do they sign up for Ticker?
Yeah, so I'll speak to the feedback first. We've had a good bit of interest from, actually, interestingly enough, some people that run kind of smaller micro, like more like syndicates, maybe more on the micro fund side, like between those two very small kind of capital mechanisms and vehicles. And also some people that are in the kind of angel investing and individual investing area
Yeah,
that might have
makes
capital to
sense.
deploy into an LP position. That's at least on the buy side. On the GP side, we've had GPs that are very interested and like the concept. And of course, there are some GPs that are a little skittish at the idea of having a kind of liquidity built into some kind of very kind of permanent fund mechanism.
Great. And how do they contact you?
Yeah, the best way is really just on through our website. If you go to ticker.fund, you can find ways to contact us there. You can sign up for kind of an early account with us. And we're also easily contactable through LinkedIn or any other social media means.
Awesome. Best of luck, Max. I'm looking forward to working with you over the coming months and years here. And thank you for being on 8-Minute Insights.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
This has been 8-Minute Insights. Be sure to follow Texture Capital on LinkedIn, where we will release a new episode every week. You can also find us on Twitter at texture_capital and on the web at texture.capital. The foregoing discussion is for information purposes only and does not constitute a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Private securities offerings are not registered with the SEC and are considered highly speculative. An investment in private securities may result in the loss of your entire capital contribution. Blockchain is a new technology and unproven in financial markets. There is no guarantee that tokenization will enable any secondary market liquidity in the future, and your investment may remain illiquid.